is made of material things. So this is a very heavy topic, and we are also seeing how Maitreya Rishi. So who is actually narrating this? We know Maitreya is actually speaking to. Whom is he speaking to?
Vidura.
Thank you. So he is speaking to them. He has begun to speak, and then he started off actually by taking a very complex, vast, invisible aspect of the Lord. So the Virata Purusha description, and then the creation of the material world. So it's not a very simple thing that can be understood by just listening once or anything. So there's so many things the mind turns out when we are hearing this. It's a very complex thing, but and it is also beyond our comprehension. So it is not very easy to comprehend. It's a very heavy topic for anyone. And so the sage, that is Maitreya Rishi, is actually taking a very humble position. So why is he taking this humble position? Because he wants to bring out the aspect of insignificance. So that is what it is. So what actually he is saying is that I am very insignificant, but then I have tried to explain the highest truth, or the highest, the most highest kind of knowledge I'm trying to explain. But then I am very insignificant, so I am just repeating. And then he says, it is my good fortune that I am able to repeat it, and then I'm able to hear it, whereby my ears are becoming chaste. So he is taking that example. If you hear any mundane things or things which are not to be heard, this is as good as the ears not being chaste. So being chaste means hearing only about the Lord, and then of course taking pleasure or happiness out of it, which is something that is very much acceptable, and it means that you have utilized the ears, or one has utilized the ears in its proper function. So hearing the katha becomes very important, and he is also concluding that this is the actual purpose of the ears. So everything that we see in the Shrimad Bhagavatam is Vidya. How do we understand that this is Vidya? Because in Bhagavad Gita, actually, Krishna is speaking, and then he talks in a particular verse where he says that Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Dhamane Gavihastine. Okay, Suni Cheva Swapakena Pandita Samadarshina. So now this particular verse becomes important, because this is like a litmus test which will tell us, am I gaining the right knowledge or not? Because right knowledge will lead to bhakti. It will also lead to humility. So if it is not making us humble, any knowledge, then it means that it is avidya. Now, the recitation of Shrimad Bhagavatam by Maitreya Rishi is making him humble. So we can he is humble, but then he is expressing it here. So from this we can understand that this is the right knowledge. And Shrimad Bhagavatam has the entire, all the information that is contained there is the right knowledge that we need to hear, we need to read, we need to assimilate, and then internalize it, then get it into our DNA, so to speak, and then also use it. Means practical application of that particular knowledge becomes very important. So these are the activities that we are supposed to do, or it is expected of us that we carry out this. So Srila Prabhupada, in the purport of the verse 38, he makes a reference to the mundane philosophers. And then because everybody is in the quest for knowledge, people want to know more and more because of this potency, which is the knowledge potency that is there in every Atma. It is just that they are misdirected. So instead of going behind chit knowledge, which is permanent, knowledge which is more permanent, they end up, or they get caught in this huge ocean of nascent knowledge, or knowledge which is of no use, which is mundane knowledge, because it is not going to give them any progress or there is no advancement that is going to happen by such knowledge, which is completely material. So to bring that out, Prabhupada actually is talking about froggish philosophers. So he takes the example of a frog, and then he is talking about froggish philosophers. That's how the purport starts. So now, what is this froggish philosopher? If you have heard, some of you I'm sure would have heard, or maybe all of you would have heard, Prabhupada actually used to take this example of Dr. Frog. Okay, you can raise your hand if you have heard this. So there, he is actually talking about how there is this frog, and then he is calling it as Dr. Frog, because, and it's in a well. Generally, the frogs are in a well. So now this frog is Dr. Frog because it thinks that it knows everything. The well, the length and breadth of the well, it moves around every day, day in and day out. It is moving, so it knows every nook and corner of this well. Then what happens? One day he gets a visitor. That's another frog that comes, and this frog has actually gone and seen the Pacific Ocean. A little now you can imagine. Okay, so this Pacific Ocean, and then he comes to this well, and then he's spending some time. They are talking, and then this other frog, the visitor, is saying that actually I've seen a huge mass of water, which is so huge that I cannot describe it. It is very, very vast. Oh, really? It is bigger than this well? It is asking. Then the side, they are in the well, no? They are discussing. It says, yes, it is much bigger than this. Oh, I see. This frog is saying, the Dr. Frog is saying, oh, maybe this is 2 times, because this particular well is 4 feet. Maybe the water that you are talking about must be 8 feet, or twice the size. He says, no, not twice. It is much more huge. Then he says, oh, maybe it is 10 feet. Maybe it is 20 feet. So he goes on like this. He's saying, no, it is much huger, much bigger, more depth it has, and so on and so forth. But that's Dr. Frog is not able to comprehend what this other frog is trying to tell. So, because he is talking about a vastness that is beyond any expression or any word that is there to explain it with respect to the frogs. Of course, for humans, we can actually talk in terms of miles and kilometers, but just to get that reference or the bearing right, this particular example gives. And then he says that most of the mundane philosophers are like this Dr. Frog. So you try to tell them about the spiritual world, about the material creation, they try to gauge, or they try to measure it in terms of their own limited knowledge. They try to measure it with their own yardstick, which is very, very small. And this yardstick is not in comparison to the vastness that is there on the other side. So this is the aspect that most of the philosophers fail to understand, like the Dr. Frog that missed the whole thing completely, because it was not willing to surrender. It was only trying to relate it to the knowledge that it had of the well, the length, breadth, the dimension, and then trying to see. But then if we think, this is a little funny story, very normal, simple story, but then it looks a little funny also. But yes, the material world is also like that, and most of the time the philosophers end up getting into this kind of a situation. So that is how Prabhupada says brings out the pitfall of mental speculation. Here the frog was trying to do that. It was trying to speculate in its mind, and then it is trying to comprehend the incomprehensible. So it is trying to say maybe twice, maybe 10 times, oh, maybe 50 times, maybe 100 times. There can't be anything bigger than a mass of water, which can be bigger than 100 times this size of this well that is there. We might laugh at that. But then he says, no, it is beyond that. You can fit millions and millions of wells or whatever it is. So, but anyway, so this is how mental speculation doesn't lead one to anywhere, even though there is a lot of time and energy that is wasted on it. But then it becomes samayevahi kevalam or shamayevahi kevalam. So there is waste of time and then the waste of energy. So Now, this particular shloka, what is being told is that Lord Brahma actually meditated. He wanted to understand the Lord. He wanted to know who the Lord is. So he meditates for 1,000 celestial years. Now, 1,000 celestial years is 1,000 years itself is a big thing. Do we meditate on anything if we don't understand for 1 year? At the most, for a day, we might try to meditate on something to see, understand it, and then we just give up. But then Lord Brahma meditated for 1,000 celestial years. That is nearly 1 year of ours is 1 day for them. So in that way, 1,000 years. So like that he has done, and then he finally understands, or he realizes Supreme Personality of Godhead. He sets out with this meditation, trying to understand the Lord. But then finally, after 1,000 years of meditation, he understands. What does he understand? He understands that the Lord cannot be understood. That's all. So it took 1,000 years for him to come to that conclusion. So now, what does that mean? And Brahma is very intelligent. The most intelligent person in the material world is Lord Brahma, because he is the one who is responsible for the creation. But then, even with all his intelligence, even with his 4 heads, that means 4 times the RAM capacity that we have, or whatever it is. So he is still not able to understand after 1,000 years of meditation. So then that is the vastness of the inconceivability of the divine, or of Lord Krishna, or how we cannot comprehend or understand the Lord with our own yardsticks, which is the limit of our material brains, the limit of our material faculties like eyes, ears, nose, and then of course the mind, the intelligence, all of that is there. With all of these faculties that is given to us, we will not be able to understand the Lord. In fact, even in the Brahma Samhita, there is a particular shloka which gives a reference to this. Anybody remembers that shloka? Because some of you are actually listening to the Brahma Samhita. So anybody wants to give a try? What is the shloka which gives a reference to this particular aspect of how mental speculation is not the way to understand the Lord? So this, okay, I'll just tell you. This is Panthastu Koti Shatavatsara Sampragamyo Vayu Rathapi Manaso Munipungavana. So that particular shloka, so Payasti Yat Padasimni Avichintya Tatve Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. This is 5.34. So in this particular shloka, what is being told here is that I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord. Only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands and millions of years. So one may go on speculating, go on meditating, go on doing these things, but we will not be able to even approach the tip or the toenail, the tip of the nail or the toenail of the Lord, not be able to approach, because the Lord is so vast that we will still be going around in circles, so to speak, and then we'll not be able to know the Lord. So that's the aspect that we can see in most of the scriptures. Everywhere that is what is being highlighted. So we saw how even in Shrimad Bhagavatam, Brahmaji is not able to understand. And then Maitreya Rishi is bringing that aspect out. And then he says that we cannot describe the Lord because with the limited faculties that we have. And in the limited faculty, even words are included. So whatever description that we give, it is always going to fall short, way short, when it comes to the actual glories of the Lord, or the actual position of the Lord, or the actual potency of the Lord. So all of this we will not be able to describe. So this is what is going told. So now it brings us to a point where we have understood that we should not speculate. That is one thing, because our faculties will take us around in circles, and we will never get anywhere, even if we do speculation for millions of years. So that is the Spantastu Koti Shatavatsara. And then trying to understand the unlimited world through the limited thing is something which is the Dr. Frog kind of an approach. So this is also not okay. So and then that is what we see generally the people do, and so they miss it completely. But then what is Srila Prabhupada saying? He's talking about how a devotee is not perplexed by any of these things. So a true practicing devotee, he or she will understand how these aspects are not so much of a bother for a devotee. He doesn't worry, because Krishna is talking in the 9th chapter. He's talking about how the devotee is surrendered to, or he takes the support of Devim Prakritim. So what is that particular verse? I'll try to read it here. Mahatmanastu mam partha Devim Prakritim ashritaha bhajante ananyamanaso nyatva bhutadim avyayam. So what does that mean? So it means, and so, O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in the devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. So they may not know the Lord completely. We will not know. Nobody will know. But then they know that the Lord is not knowable, and He is inexhaustible, and He is supreme. So if we know that much, then we are safe. We are in the right knowledge. The fact that we know that we cannot know the Lord is knowledge. It is not ignorance, even though it looks like it is ignorance. This is another paradox that we have. People who think that they know the Lord, or they want to endeavor to know the Lord, or they want to do their own physical, endeavor to understand the Lord, are actually, even though they have so much of quest for that particular knowledge, they are in ignorance because they have missed the point completely. Whereas a devotee who knows that he cannot understand the Lord fully is in perfect knowledge. So this is another paradox that we have. So because with respect to the Lord, there is so much of paradoxes. So this is another inconceivable potency of the Lord. And so in the next shloka, Krishna is saying, what happens? What do they do then? When they know that they cannot understand the Lord, they just do Tatatam Kirta Yantoma. They are Dridavratas. They are determined. And then they just do Satatam Kirta, devotional service. And that is how then they become Nitya Yukta Upasate. So always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So this is what even Maitreya Rishi is trying to say, and then Prabhupada is trying to bring out that particular aspect of how a devotee is not bewildered by such, or he doesn't get lost by just speculation. It becomes very boring topic for him, because he says it's a wasted effort. He understands it is, and he knows that he already knows the truth that the Lord is not knowable. And that was the same conclusion that Brahmaji has made in this particular verse. And then if you look at the next verse, there is more description that is given on the potency, which is actually brought forth the variegatedness that we see around. By looking at the end product, we can understand the potency of the person who created that particular thing. So if you look around, the vastness of the universe, the universal form that we saw, every day we are hearing about it. There is so much of variegatedness. There is so much of complexity. There is so much of vastness, and all of that. So by looking at that end product, we can understand what is the kind of potency the creator has to bring forth such a creation and then make it float. Prabhupada gives this example. We are taking so much of pride trying to float a tiny aeroplane in the air, or sending a Sputnik to a rocket or a satellite to outer space. We take so much of pleasure or so much of back patting we do. Whereas the Lord has put so many huge planets or grihas in the space, and they are floating like as though they are weightless. And then it moves around. It doesn't collide. There's so much of air traffic that is there, but then nothing happens. So like this, the potency
Hare Krishna. I think Prabhu's connection is lost. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Because of words.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I got disconnected for some reason.
Yeah, it's okay, Prabhu.
Yeah, apologies. So, these jugglers, again, what is happening is they don't believe. So it is so confusing for them that they don't believe. It is like the sour grape kind of a thing, you know. So it tries, it doesn't get the grape, so it concludes that the grapes are sour. So in the same way, they try to understand, and then they say, no, such a thing is not possible. So this must be impossible. And then they read about certain things about divinity, about Krishna, and then they say, no, it doesn't exist. We all evolved from monkeys, so they all don't. I mean, this all stories don't exist. They're all mythology. So this is how the word mythology evolved. It's a word that is given by the frog philosophers for things that they are not able to understand or comprehend. So they just branded it as mythology, just put it in that bucket, and then that solved their problem. And then they went about thinking that they have done a wonderful job. But that is not how a devotee would look at. So because they understand, and then because if you look at all these aspects of the Lord, like the leelas that he performed in terms of lifting the goer, then with his little finger, and then marrying 16,108, having so many wives, and then there are the number of demons that he killed, and then the potency, the strength, and the hugeness of these demons that he killed when he was a baby, a small boy crawling. So he crawls and then he brings down two big trees, Yamalarjuna tree, and then there's that pastime in the Damodara Leela. So like this, so many things the Lord has done. So it is like they think, oh, this is all imaginary. This is all something that nobody can do. So they immediately try to put it under the category of mythology. So that is why we don't use. There are two things that we as practicing devotees don't use in our vocabulary or in our dictionary. One is mythology when we refer to the scriptures. The other one is idol when we refer to the deities or to the forms that are there in the temple. So we always call them as deities. We don't refer to them as idol. And then the various leelas, we don't refer to them as mythology. Mahabharata, Ramayana is not mythology. It is itihas. In fact, it is completely opposite meaning. It is actually classified under itihas. Itihas means history in our Sanatan Dharma, this thing. But then conveniently, when it moved to the other side on in the English language or the modern day, then it has gone into mythology. So this is because of the incapability that we have, and not that the whole aspect itself is wrong. So it is like the sour grapes. That is the story that comes to my mind when we are talking about such foolish speculation that people are doing. But for a devotee, and then now sometimes you might ask, okay, a devotee is not okay. He's not calling it mythology, and then he has complete this thing. Now, is that a sentimental kind of an approach that a devotee is taking? Because, oh, you see, I'm born here, I've been connected, and now I've heard so much, right from my small days, I've heard of Krishna. Now, how can I say it doesn't exist? So some sentimental feelings are there. So maybe he's there, so it's okay, I will not refute it, kind of a thing. No, it's not like that, because that is not what the scriptures want us to take a position with respect to the Lord. It is not a blind belief, or it is not some sentimental emotion that we are talking about. A devotee is free of bewilderment in a very confident way with knowledge. That is a true devotee. What is this knowledge? How can we carry this particular knowledge of the potency of the Lord, and then have so much of conviction? For that, actually, there is this story. I mean, in fact, even the purport is given, like, in the banyan tree, how a banyan tree is contained in a seed, and then how that knowledge is there. So we understand the potency of the seed, and then the potency of the person who created the banyan tree and the seed, and then the whole creation that has been brought forth like that. So for that, there is this particular story of the cobbler and the Brahmana. So many of you might have heard this. This is also again quoted by Srila Prabhupada. So where once upon a time, I'll just try to narrate it in a very short way. So what happens is there is this our Narada Muni who's traveling, who's going by, and then he comes across a Brahmana doing his activities. He's a very pious Brahmana. Every day morning he's getting up, and then he's a Vipra. He's learned in the Shastras and all of that. And then he is doing his part, puja and everything. So he's like there's no seeming defect in him. So he meets him. Of course, dutifully he greets Lord Narada, and then he pays obeisances, and then he says, "Oh Naradji, where are you going?" And then he says that I'm actually going to Vaikuntha. Oh, that's very nice. You're going to Vaikuntha. So I'm going there to meet the Lord. That's even more wonderful. Now, on your way back, can you just please inquire from Lord Narayana, when is my liberation? I want to know when is my liberation. And Narada says, fine. So he's this wonderful gentleman who's endeavoring so much. Then he wants to know when his liberation is going to be. So fine, I'll definitely ask that, he says. And then he proceeds. And then on his way, then he meets, after some time, he meets another person who's a cobbler. Cobbler means like muchi or whatever. So that means opposite of suchi. That means somebody who's not very clean. They deal with the skins of animal and all that. Those days, the muchi means like who's skinning the animal, because where does it get the leather from? So like that. And then he's stitching footwear and all that stuff. So this muchi is there. He's doing his job. He sees Narada Muni. He also recognizes him. And then he pays obeisances. And then he is there. And then he says, then again, he's also asking, how come you're here? And then Narada Muni says that I'm actually on my way to Vaikuntha. I have to see the Lord. Oh, that's so wonderful. So you'll be seeing the Lord. That's even excellent. And then he says, like, if you don't mind, can you just ask the Lord a particular question that I have in my mind? He says, okay, spell it out. So he says, I would like to know, what kind of life I'm leading now. So I want to know when is my liberation. I want to get out of this. I don't want any birth, death, and etc. This is, he's surprised, he's taken aback. Wow. So both extremes of the society, one is a Suchi, the other one is a Muchi, a Brahmana, and then a cobbler, and where one is very learned, the other one is uneducated and all that. So now both of them have the same desire. They want to know when is their liberation. Fine. So then he goes, when he reaches Vaikuntha, he sees the Lord, whatever business he had, he completes with him, means whatever discussion. And then he is about to leave. He is taking leave, and then he says, on my way, and then he talks to Lord Narayana. Then he's saying, on my way, I met these two people. They actually have a question for you, which I have to ask. And then if you give me the reply, then on my way back, I can tell them. So then he explains that he saw this Brahmana and then the cobbler. And then both of them want to know when is the liberation. So what do I tell them? Then the Lord said, okay, as far as the Brahmana is concerned, it is going to take many, many, many births for him to, for his liberation. So he has a long way to go. Oh, I see. Okay. Point noted by Narada. Then as far as the cobbler is concerned, the moment this life is his last life, after his death, will be coming directly to Vaikuntha, to me. And Narada is bewildered. Oh, maybe you meant the other way around. The Brahmana is, the last life is this, and then the cobbler will take many lives. No, he says, no, it's not like that. What I said is correct. This is like this. The Brahmana, it takes many lifetime, and then for this man, it is immediate. So he is perplexed. Then Narada asks, so why do you, how is it? It doesn't add up. It doesn't match. Then Narayana is smiling, and then he says, you go, and then you, they will ask, what was the Lord doing after you met? When you go and meet them now back, he'll ask. So you just tell them that the Lord was trying to pass an elephant through the eye of a needle. And then you will know why I'm saying this. He said, okay, I will do that. And then he goes. So as he's going back, then he meets the Brahmana first. And then he says, okay, so when is the thing? Before that, he wanted, oh, you saw the Lord? He says, yes, all that. And then he says, so what was my Narayana doing? And he says, oh, actually, Narayana was actually trying to pass an elephant through the eye of the needle. And then the Brahmana laughs. And then in complete amusement, he is laughing. And then he says, what is this? You must be kidding. Who can pass an elephant through the eye of a needle? He must be doing something else. You're just joking with me. Like that, he is talking, and then he belittles the whole thing. And then Narada just keeps quiet, and then he just walks out. After telling him, probably he told him, liberation, you have to endeavor or whatever, and then he moves. Then he comes to this cobbler. Cobbler is again the same thing. So he's also asking after greeting. he's saying like, tell me what was my Lord doing? I mean, so wonderful. And then you saw and met him and all that. So please tell me. And then immediately he is giving the same answer. He's saying, the Lord was actually trying to pull an elephant through the eye of the needle. And then that brings so much of joy on the face of the cobbler. He says, so wonderful, so wonderful. My Lord can do anything in this world. I mean, anything in this world. I mean, in his reference, he was saying like that. He could do anything. Anything is possible for him. So nice, so wonderful. Then he thought, Narad Muni is actually astonished by the reply that he is giving. Oh, so this person seems to have a better grasp or understanding of the Lord than Brahmana, who was well versed, who knew the scriptures and everything. And in spite of that, he couldn't get the main essence, whereas this person seems to have it. Then he wanted to test him a little more. He says, maybe he's talking in a very sentimental way. I mean, generally we say, now with the Lord, anything is possible, everything is possible. We also keep saying that, right? So he wanted to test him further because he knew he's not educated. He says, why do you say that the Lord can do anything? My Lord is, and then the cobbler would have said, my Lord is so intelligent, he can achieve anything. And he says, how do you know your Lord is intelligent? How can you say that? What is the basis for such a conclusion that you have come to? Then he says, they are sitting under the tree, a banyan tree. And then he says, you look at this tree, Narada. In this tree is such a huge tree. And then each of, this is actually sprung from a small seed. And now there are so many seeds which are there. And this particular, each of the seed, there is a big tree that is contained within it. And within that, then again, there are so many seeds and each of them carry a bigger tree in them. It is just that it is not manifested. Now the intelligence, the potency that has created this, what is so surprising if for that potency or for that personality to pull an elephant through the eye of the needle, it is very much possible. And then Narad Muni realizes. So like this, Prabhupada was explaining, and then he's saying how it is not just blind belief, it is not sentimentalism, but it is the conclusion which is kind of supported by understanding, each one's understanding. We all have an understanding, right? We all have our own intelligence, and then based on that, then coming to a conclusion is what is the essence of Krishna consciousness all about. It is not just being conscious and aware of Krishna and then in a very blind way, nor is it about being in a sentimental way. Sentimental means materially sentimental way, but then it is about coming to the conclusion or being conscious of the Lord with the proper understanding, with realizations happening each time. As we look around the world, there are so many things. How many of us would have thought of a huge mango tree that is contained in a mango seed whenever we are finishing off a mango? I mean, okay, some of us would have, but then have we done it in the kind of realization that the cobbler had? No. So this is what is God consciousness or Krishna consciousness all about. Trying to remember the Lord and the potency of the Lord in everything that we interact with, whether it is a mango, whether it is another individual, whether it is the vastness of the ocean, whether it is the smallness of a ant or a microbe, and then what they can do. Any of these things, the mundane things that we see, and then the potency that is there, and then attributing it to Lord Krishna, attributing it to the creator or the primary creator, and then trying to understand this whole creation in that way, and then living our life in that consciousness is what some essence of what we are supposed to be doing, and that is what Maitreya Rishi is trying to bring out. And when we understand this vastness, then humility is a quality that would automatically come in. We will not feel proud or will not feel in an arrogant way anymore, because we will know that we are just a small cog in the wheel, and so on and so forth. So that way, that aspect of Vidya Vinaya Sampane. So this is true knowledge, and this is Vidya Vinaya Sampane. It brings about Vinaya in us, and then it also brings about equanimity. And we will not be bewildered by anything, because mundane philosophers can become very bewildered when they hear some things, and then they'll say, why is the Lord doing like this? Why is the world like this? Why so many things are happening, this, that, and all that? Of course, practicing Vaishnava will have compassion for the suffering of the world, but then he's not bewildered. He will not blame the Lord, or he will not try to come to some wrong conclusions and make aparads and so on and so forth. He will see it in proper knowledge, in the proper light, the way it has to be seen, like how a doctor sees the suffering of a patient in with knowledge and with compassion. Because with knowledge if he has to see, so that he can cure him. But there has to be compassion to do that activity also. Otherwise, if anyone is missing, then that process is not complete, right, for a doctor. So in that way, we as practicing Vaishnavas also have to have that compassion for other human beings, but at the same time not get bewildered or not get lost in the vicissitudes or the ups and downs of lives that we are seeing. So thereby we also get sucked into it. No, it should not be like that. So this is the aspect that comes out from these examples that we saw in the purport. And then look at the next verse, which is verse 40. Here it says that this is like kind of a conclusion. It says that all the means have failed for the realization of the Lord, to know or understand the Lord. What are these means? The means of words, mind, ego, intelligence, senses. Everything is, if we try to understand the Lord through any of this, it has failed, because it failed for Brahmaji. So it is. So we can take it as conclusion that it will fail for all of us. So now even the words fail, but then we are supposed to hear. We might think, and then if I have to hear, then Shravanam, Kirtanam, all this is waste. No, it is not. How it is not, we'll try to see. Because by hearing, and then and then we are actually trying to measure, like the example of the frog, measure the Pacific Ocean with the yardstick that the frog had. Maybe its feet, how many feet will fit in, or is the measure of the length of the Pacific Ocean and all that. So it's impossible, no? Like that. Here also we are limited, and then we are subject to 4 defects. So we all know that the 4 types of defects. We are always in Maya, and then we commit mistakes. We have cheating propensity, and then we are under illusion, so on and so forth. So these are the defects that we have. With this, we cannot understand the Lord. And then what is the solution then? There is a solution. Every day we sing that solution, because it says, Divya Jnana Hridaya Prakashito. It doesn't say Divya Jnana Matir Prakashito. No, it's manifested in the heart of a devotee, not in the mind of the devotee or the intelligence of the devotee. So there is a clue or a clue here. So only devotional service, which will take us to the Lord, which will please the Lord. So when we do devotional service, that is what is a conclusion here, that when we do devotional service, when we surrender to Devi Prakritim, or Bhaktyamam Abhichanati. So look at various shlokas in Bhagavad Gita. It talks about devotional service. And and what is devotional service also we know. So that is a service that is done without any motive. That is ahaituki and apratihata. It is continuous. It is not like, okay, one day I did wonderfully well, and then the next 3 days I didn't do anything. Or every week something I do, but intermittently I do. Like, it's not like that. It has to be continuous, day in and day out. And then it is ahaituki. That means it is not having any cost. It is not having any material motivation or any of those things. You just do the seva for the sake of the seva, and that becomes devotional service in its purity. Even though we may not be pure, but if we are able to do it in that bhava, then there is some amount of purity that is there, and then the Lord only takes that bhava. That is why he is bhava grahi janardana. So he takes that bhava, and then what happens? A magic happens when he accepts it. He blesses, or he gives his mercy to us. So when the mercy begins to flow down, then understanding comes. So now, yes, we don't have the faculty to understand the Lord, but then the faculties become empowered by the mercy that is coming through. Thereby, we will be able to get some understanding, required, necessary knowledge, to the extent that we could go about doing further. Lord, that is why the Lord opens it up in small doses, drop by drop, bit by bit. That is how even glucose is administered to a patient, right? You can't empty the whole bottle into the bloodstream. What will happen? Some complication will happen. Medical people will know what can happen. So that is why, how do they give it? They give it in drops. They even control the rate depending on the individual. If there is some reaction they are showing, they immediately slow the flow. The drops rate gets reduced, otherwise they speed it up, whatever. So there is somebody who's monitoring it. The Lord also like that, little by little, boond, like bindu, that is why it is called. We just need a bindu, that's all. Small, one bindu is enough for us, but then he gives it in a matra that is acceptable to us or to our body or to our conditioning that we are in. And thereby, slowly take us towards himself, or makes us to realize Krishna, and then make us to do activities in that realization, and further advancement happens by way of the mercy that comes when we are doing this. So like this, bit by bit, we struggle with the intention to please the Lord, even with all the faults, even with all the incapabilities. We continue to do that. Thereby, the Lord becomes pleased, and then His mercy begins to flow. And that flow is what we should look forward to, which is what will energize our faculties, and it will take away all our shortcomings or our inability. Pangur langayate girim. So with the kripa of the Lord, which is coming through the Guru, even a lame will be able to scale a mountain and all of that. Mukam karoti vachalam. Even a mute person will be able to speak, and all those wonderful things will happen by the mercy of the Lord. So even though all these we cannot understand by transcendental, by mundane knowledge, but then we should have the faith and the understanding that all this can happen when the mercy of the Lord is there. So what we should look forward is for the mercy of the Lord. And when we're looking forward for the mercy of the Lord, that means we are receivers. If we are receivers, then we will not be in the mood of achievers. So now, what is the difference between achiever and receiver? Achiever means, I will do 16 rounds. I completed so much. I did this seva. I did that. That's a mood which is like a mood of an achiever, like a tick box and then tick, 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 tick. I've done this. I've done this. I tried to do. I've done that. No. Here, the mood of a receiver is opposite of that, where he or she is understanding the position, and then he knows that I am not able to do something in the way it has to be done. It is not proper, and it doesn't have the right temperament, and so on and so forth. It's full of defects, so to speak. But still, the Lord will accept it, because even though I'm capable, I'm trying my best, or I've been instructed by my spiritual master to do certain things, so I'm doing it. So now this is the mood of a receiver. So if we have to receive something from somebody, how will we go? Our mood itself is different, whereas it's not in a demanding way, right? So in that way, that's the mood of doing devotional service. That's the mood of chanting. That's the mood of any devotional activity. That's the mood in which we approach the whole world in whatever we endeavor to do for the Lord or for the Guru. So that is the aspect that becomes very important. In fact, it says, conclusion, yatha mati yatha shrutam. So that means, to the extent of our intelligence, we will be able to hear what is being told. So each time, and it's an upward spiral. So initially we start off with a very low amount of understanding, but as the understanding becomes better and better, then our hearing becomes better and better. So, but then for the intelligence to become better, our hearing has to become better. Though it looks like a paradox, but then when we begin with something small and then keeps on increasing, and that is all happening because of the mercy of the Lord. That is what is being done. That's why we say, my speech is unchaste, but then if you're talking about Krishna, then it is chaste. So that's why sometimes, many times we'll see Bhagavatam speakers, they say, for my own purification, I'm speaking. So that means I'm purifying my speaking, means Shravanam as well as my Kirtanam, by only talking about the Lord. Otherwise, I'm involved in talking about mundane things, hearing about mundane things, so on and so forth. So here also in the previous verses, we saw how Maitreya Rishi is saying that his ears and his become chaste by listening to Krishna Katha. If you listen to something else, it becomes unchaste. So this kind of endeavor, this is so different from the endeavor that outside a regular person does in the material world, be it a philosopher or a mental speculator. So we know the difference now, because the doubts are removed for us, and then the ignorance is also removed, but not by our effort. It is by the mercy of the Lord and nothing else. So from being I-centric, I read, I studied, I listened, I understood, we will say, I heard, and then I was made to understand, or it was the mercy of the Lord that I have been able to have some grasp on this particular topic. That's the mood that we will have to cultivate for ourselves. And this is a mood that is cultivable. And if we cannot cultivate, my nature is such that I can't have that mood, then again, now you know the answer. Whom do you depend on? You'll have to depend on Krishna, to pray to the Lord that he gives that mood to us, so that we are able to advance further in our devotional service or in our Krishna consciousness. Now somebody says, I cannot pray, then it's that same thing. No, I cannot cry. Then cry that you cannot cry. So the crying is a symptom of, devotional service. So you say that of taking the position of a servant. Then somebody says, I cannot cry. Then we saw how the senior Vaishnava said, if you cannot cry, then you cry that you cannot cry. And then somebody said, no, I cannot cry that I cannot cry. Then he says, you cry that you cannot cry that you cannot cry for Krishna. So like that, the whole aspect is that you will have to surrender. That's what is coming out so nicely. In various ways, they try to explain it, but the essence is the same, which is attitude of gratitude. So attitude of a receiver, not as an achiever. So these are all very subtle things, which definitely the Lord will give us the intelligence to understand and accept, and then further cultivate it. So that is what this whole thing is all about. Why is knowledge useful? Because if you take Bhagavad Gita, the chapters are also aligned like that. First, Krishna talks about action, karma. That is, he talks about the mundane activities and all that. Then he spoke about the transcendental knowledge. Then after that, again, he spoke about action. And this time, that action he was referring to was a little different because it was with knowledge. So that action with knowledge will actually, it is not action without knowledge. And action with knowledge leads to non-activity or akarma, or it doesn't. Why they say non-activity is because it doesn't give us any reactions. So in this way, it is renounced action, we can say. So like that, there is always action involved, and any action in devotional service is not having any mundane reactions to it. So there is no mundane karma involved in it. So it is all devotional, and that is why that is carefully protected. Neha vikramanosti vayuna vidyate solpam apiyasya dharmasya. So whichever way we look at it, we'll know that is why that logic of preserving it works, because it is not material, it is spiritual, and it is divine. And then for divine and spiritual, we will know by the mercy that we receive. So whichever way you look at it, we cannot take a position of an achiever. We will have to take a position of a receiver, and then try to understand more and more, and then move forward. And that is what Maitreya Rishi is doing here. He takes the position of humility, and then he is talking about it. In fact, even Bhagavad Gita, there is this verse in the 13th chapter which talks about amanitvam, adambitvam. So there are those all various aspects which are described, which Krishna concludes saying that only that is knowledge and the rest are all not knowledge. So this is how Krishna concludes in that. I'll just try to read that as a conclusion. So what are the aspects that we are talking about when it comes to knowledge? It is not about understanding the Lord. In fact, trying to understand the Lord with our effort is ignorance. So it's not knowledge. But these are knowledge. What are they? Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, and then absence of false ego, the perception of evil of birth and death and old age and disease, and then detachment. Sometimes they say, no, oh, God is so cruel. Somebody died or he took away his life and all that. So no, that is a perception of evil of birth, death, old age and disease. So that is not knowledge. And then being free from that is knowledge. Then detachment. Then freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest. Entanglement is different, and taking care for them is different, or helping them in a non-entangled way. Sometimes, being very possessive. But then liking somebody and being possessive, there are two things. So we're talking about this here. Entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest. And even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events. Constant and unalloyed devotion to me, that is to Krishna. Aspiring to live in a solitary place. Detachment from general mass of people. Accepting the importance of self-realization and the philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be, it is ignorance. So in this way, it starts off with humility, pridelessness, non-violence. So these are the changes that comes about in a devotee when he or she is getting the right knowledge or accepting the right knowledge. So, and that's the conclusion of Maitreya Rishi. So on this note, I'll stop here. Yeah, it's 10:30 exact time. If there are any comments or questions that anybody has on the topic that we discussed today, very subtle topic, you can just go ahead with that and I'll try to do that. Hare Krishna, then was pronounced all of you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, wonderful class. We got a lot of knowledge. From where do you get these qualities? From where can you share with us, Prabhuji?
Oh yeah, that is the Bhagavad Gita, the 13th chapter, no, 8 to 12, shlokas 8 to 12, 13th chapter.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dhanyavad Pranav. Thank you for the wonderful class. Prabhu, in the 40th shloka, the purport, the second line says, right, the controlling deities of speech, mind, and ego, namely the Vedas, Brahma, Rudra, and all. So, like, what is this, Prabhu? The controlling deities of speech, like, it is referring to Brahma. I couldn't get
See, Mataji, what they are trying to say is our own facilities, faculties that we have, all that is enabled by the controlling deities. We have seen that before, how each for our speech, for seeing, for everything, for every action, there is a controlling deity, right? So you have this combination of just not myself, but myself with the help of the controlling deities. So I am involved. The higher forms or beings are also involved because they are the ones who are giving us, like somebody is known for intelligence, and then because of that controlling deity, I'm able to display my intelligence. So now you are actually two there. You are displaying, but then you are assisted by the controlling deity. So even with assistance, we cannot understand the Lord. Not just you alone or me alone, but even me along with the controlling deities who are helping me to understand things, to comprehend, to walk, to eat, to sleep, everything. With all these people coming together also is a failed aspect in terms of trying to understand the Lord. That is what, that's how I think we should look at this particular conclusion of that particular shloka. So it is not just me. And then in fact, one more important point I forgot to say. It says the potency of the Lord is such that not only me, not only the controlling deities, that is the higher forms, or the sum total of all of them, but even the Lord himself, he could not understand his own potency. So that is the conclusion of these three shlokas. I missed that. So your question brought that up. Thank you so much for that. But I hope it's clear to you what I said.
Yes, Prabhu. So this I understood, Prabhu. Here again, continuation, namely the Vedas, Brahma, Rudra. So are these the controlling deities of speech, mind, and ego, Prabhu? Or they are
even see, they go one step forward and they say even the Vedas are not able to describe the potency of the Lord completely. Why? Why is that so? Of course, we can understand or we begin to know who is the Lord by the Vedas. It's media through which we will know. But then they have not explained, or whatever is the conclusion of the explanation that is there in the Vedas is not what is the, it's not equal to the potency of the Lord. The potency of the Lord is much more than that. So the Vedas are also adequate in explaining the potency of the Lord, because the Lord himself is not able to understand his own potency. That is why it is.
We got disconnected from you.
Understanding the Veda by hearing only. So hearing itself, there is a limitation. I said, no, what was that? Yata mati, yata shrutim. So based on our intelligence, our hearing will be there. So with all these ambiguities, with all these impediments, the conclusion is that even Vedas cannot explain fully. And then another place where they were saying, there's something called as Atishruti. Atishruti means exaggeration. For the Lord, there is no exaggeration, because whatever words you use, most beautiful, most beautiful, whatever exaggeration you use, the Lord is above that. Means he's more beautiful than that. It's like saying countless infinity, I am plus one, like that. The Lord is always above because he's Asama Urdhava. No? So in that way, we cannot fully describe the Lord, be it through the Vedas or our own words or by our own potency, or taking the help of the demigods, everything, whichever way, all encompassing we do also, we cannot do. So the conclusion is that the Lord is not completely understandable, or he is beyond the understanding of our limited faculties. So we are extending that faculty up to demigod everywhere. I hope that clarifies.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Then
Chintamani, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Mate. Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji,
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, the question is, silly question. if we don't know the Lord, we cannot know His inconceivable. How can we surrender? That is one. And the second is the whole world, everyone is, whatever they are doing something towards which is unknown, like scientists, they are trying to explore, trying to know, and if they are able to achieve something, they will celebrate, they will enjoy that they've got something. I mean, it's not, it's like a appreciation that they found something and they are celebrating about it, which is, unknown, inconceivable. So like God is also is not, we cannot understand Him, right? And we also trying to understand Him in a various way, devotional way, and we're celebrating, enjoying. I'm really getting confused how to lead the life. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So let me just try to help to look at it in this way. We may not have an understanding of a lot of things, but we can be conscious of that particular aspect. You may not understand a person, but you might be conscious of that person. So we are expected to be conscious of the Lord and His potency everywhere, not understand. There are many things we don't understand in this world, Prabhu, but we make use of it. We don't know how a computer works, but then we don't know how the Zoom is working, but then we know what it does, so we are just using it. We are having the intelligence enough to understand that I don't need to go into the details of that. All I have to do is I have to just log in, do this, give the password, it will take me in because there is some intelligence there, somebody has created it. But then I will use it for my benefit, which is hearing Krishna Katha and all that. So we are doing already all this. So without trying to confuse much, I'm just saying that there are many things that we don't know in this material world, but we use it, we accept it and we use it. We don't know how the smartphone works. We don't know what all features are there in the smartphone, but still we have a smartphone or whatever. And then we know those limited functions and then we use that and then life goes on. And then we try to extract. In the same way, we may not know the Lord, we can't know the Lord, but then there is some understanding that is there. And that understanding, by the mercy only, it is increasing. It will increase and it is increasing. So we take that position of a receiver, and not as an achiever. Not that, oh, I have mastered this my phone, now I can do anything. No, not like that. By then the technology would have changed and something else would have come. So this is how the mundane world is. I'm just comparing these two together. So whatever backpatting that we do for the material achievement, it is not. It is very, very. It is flickering. It is not permanent. So it is tatkalika. It is not permanent. So we should know that. That's all. Today I am being praised. Tomorrow I might be condemned. Today I have got an award. Tomorrow I might end up making a mistake. Today I have done something very well. Tomorrow I may not. Today I am very sad. Tomorrow it's not necessary that I'll be sad tomorrow also. Tomorrow I can be happy. All these are there. So a devotee is not bewildered by these things. That is what we are trying to say. So this is that middle path that is so well explained by our acharyas, and they try to guide us through. So by practice and then by being aware that I cannot understand, which makes us take the position of humbleness, and then we approach with the same mindset of trying to understand the Lord. And then thereby we know that whatever little understanding I've got is because of the mercy. It is not by my endeavor, but by the mercy of the Lord. Because I endeavored a little bit, He was gracious enough to give me His mercy, and thereby little more understanding came. So like this, step by step, we'll have to proceed. That's what I was trying to say. I said that before, I'm just repeating it. So our endeavor is not to say that, okay, let me understand the Lord fully, then I will do devotional service. No, the fact that I don't know the Lord is the full understanding of the Lord. That's all. We've already understood the Lord, which means that He cannot be understood. Now we will do devotional service to please Him. That's all. This is how we should go. I hope I didn't confuse you further.
Yeah, fine, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. He is Achintya, so it's difficult. Whatever words I have said is inadequate. So let's keep it at that, and then we will continue our endeavor with respect to the Lord. But whole point is to be conscious of the Lord. Even though we have not understood, let us be conscious of the Lord. Conscious of the Lord in every activity. Like I said, when we were eating the mango, how many times we thought of the huge tree that is contained in the mango. Just being conscious of the Lord in the right way, the potency of the Lord in the right way. That's the aspect. Rasoham apsu kaunteya. He says, I am the taste in water. How many times we drink water? How many times we relish the taste? Or how many times we relate it to Krishna and say, this is Krishna, or the taste in the water is Krishna. No. So being conscious, even though we don't understand it. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, you said that we have to feel the conscious. So even to feel that, we should know about the God, no, Prabhuji. So He's there and everything. But that conscious
Yes.
also, we require His mercy, right, Mother? Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji. That mercy is already there with us. That is why He has made us a human being. Because it says, no, only in the human form you can begin to know me, or you can know me as unknowable. That's all. All this you cannot explain in when we had the body of a cat or a dog and all. So His mercy is already there. You can take it like His mercy is already there because I'm in the human form. Now I have to endeavor a little bit for more mercy. So like that.
Sure, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
I hope all the questions are over. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Excellent session and excellent answers also, as always, you are giving. So thank you very much. Now we'll end the session, but before ending, first we'll do Vaishnava Pranam Mantra, and after that, Rajalakshmi Mataji, I'll answer your question as well. And then after, we'll end the session. So first we'll do Vaishnava Pranam Mantra. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindra ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Gaura Premanande.
Hare Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hare Bol, Hare Krishna. Yeah, so Rajalakshmi Mataji is asking about the temple opening time. Yeah, Mataji, temple will open, but the darshan will open only as the set timings, right? So not the whole day. Actually, you can come in the evening. In the evening, you can come and take darshan and can have, can go around. So this is the program. So all the devotees who are living in Bangalore, they can come and they can have darshan and they can see the new temple also. It's in Kumar Swami layout area, which is, if you will put it in Google Map, you have to put it as the South ISKCON South Bengaluru temple. And the address, when it will come, there will be Samruddhi Enclave. So if it is coming as Samruddhi Enclave, you have got the right address and just follow the map. It's as simple as that. Is it fine?
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. So Hare Krishna to all of you. And
Krishna,
today, yeah, yes.
Last time I have asked that Golaka chart. Can you place here, Mataji?
Prabhu already, so Sevika Mataji has posted it in the group.
In the group, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you actually deleted the chat, someone can post it once again, Meenakshi Mataji or Suma Mataji.
Sure, Mataji.
Yeah, please. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mataji.
Okay.
It was already posted in the group.
Yeah, that's what.
2 days.
Okay. Yeah, on Friday itself.
Yes, Mother, yes.
Thank
Yes.
you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Pranam. We'll meet again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m.
Mataji, Prabhuji.
Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam.
Shall I end the session, Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
Yes,
Hare
ma'am.
Krishna.
Thank you so much to all the devotees.
Dandavat Pranam, Mataji.